So I'm going to share a presentation. And I'll speak with that. All right. Is it visible to everyone? Right. So as Avnish said, I have been a freelancer for 3 years. I also had a full-time job in the middle of that for a year. And I've been doing freelance during my college and even after I graduated. I graduated from Srishti Institute of Art Design and Technology, which is a design institute in Bangalore. So freelance is another pathway for you to make an income. There are pros and cons of full-time and freelance. So the good thing about freelance is you can take multiple projects, you can have multiple clients, and you can also choose projects based on your passion with a wide variety of things to learn, basically. So the first thing I'm going to tell you all about freelance is some tools and tips that you can use once you start doing freelance. Again, I'm from a graphic design background. I know a lot of you are from the tech industry. So we'll take that as we go ahead. So the first thing that I want to talk to you about is your LinkedIn profile. So a good place to start is LinkedIn because the entire professional network of any profession is on LinkedIn. So a few things that you can do on LinkedIn is there is this section, if you can see the image here, there's a section for skills and endorsements and recommendations. I think these are the two most important things you should focus on in LinkedIn because it makes your profile legitimate when you have a lot of people endorsing your skills as well as giving you recommendations because their name and their title is also displayed there. Other things you have to get done on LinkedIn is certificates, whatever certificates you have. If you completed a training or you learned a programming language and you have a certificate for that, you can upload that to LinkedIn. That also legitimizes your profile. Also, as any other social media platform, on LinkedIn also you have to keep posting. You have to keep telling your network about your achievements or whatever you're doing or your current projects. That also keeps your profile top of clicks. And another thing you should do is follow interesting people. As I said before, the entire professional network is on LinkedIn. So you have to follow people to know what are the latest trends, what is the work being done in your field, who are the important people in your field. All of that information is freely available on LinkedIn. So you should really make your profile and just start exploring this website. It's very useful. The next thing is about contracts and invoices. So always work with a contract because contracts will help you keep track of what all are your commitments and also hold the client accountable, especially when it comes to payment and when it comes to ownership of your work. You have a contract that gives you all the information you need. Make invoices for every expense, and all of these formats you can find online no matter what field you're working in. You can find templates for contracts and invoices on the internet. You can also get maybe your friend or your relatives who are in the field of law to go through them and tell you if there are any loopholes. You can obviously get a paid job done for that, but if you're starting out, I'd suggest you just network with your friends and get that done. The next thing to keep in mind is a lot of the time we feel that if we charge less for a job, then we'll get more work. That's not always true because when you charge for a project, you charge for education, you charge for your experience, you charge for, because we all pay for the software we use. So we charge for the software. as well as all our equipment, like our laptop and our electricity. All of that also you should consider when you quote a price for the project, as well as your own creativity and labor. People assume that's all they're paying for, but they actually cover all of this as well. And if you travel, you can also add those charges in the costs for your clients as well. You can list all of these costs in your invoices. You can list them even in your contracts. So you can see the template and figure that out. The next is documentation. So one thing you should always do when you're doing freelance is create a Gmail ID where you get only work mails, and track every single mail that goes through. So you have to track when the client gives you a brief, you track when they give you changes, you have a record of everything, you have a record of all your conversations. That's why it's always better to use email instead of WhatsApp. Calls are also good. Calls help you get an idea of what the client is thinking, but you should always have a record of everything on emails. Ask for written briefs, ask for whatever else their data is. You should ask for all of that in email. You should track the amount of time you spent on every aspect of the project. So in my industry, say we have to make a poster for social media, then I even track the amount of time I'm searching for a photograph, the correct photograph for the post. So that you know, based on the time, how much you charge for the project, and the client also knows how much time you are investing in the project. You have to also get your feedback and responses and revisions and edits from the client in written format. That also helps you just keep it. Sometimes it happens that the client says, I had told you about an issue and you didn't fix it. Then you can go back to the email and say, no, I did not receive it in this email, therefore I haven't done it, or vice versa. And also document it in your portfolio. I don't know how you'll have it. I don't know if the tech industry has a portfolio, but designers always have a portfolio which they have to constantly keep updating with all the work that they've done so that everything is current. This networking is the most important thing I feel about freelancing, because it's the networking is how you get work. So already I spoke about LinkedIn. That's a great site to network because you can literally see everybody. You can follow everybody. You can send requests. You can chat. You can see institutes, colleges, even you can see their professors. Everything's there on LinkedIn. Other things you can do is a lot of you all are at Internity and you all are working at Internity. So you have to talk to your teammates, you have to talk to your bosses, you have to collaborate with them, ask them for ideas, exchange ideas. That is all part of networking. So at work, you have to network at work and outside of work as well. You have to maintain those relationships so that you can come back to them. The next is family. Share your work with your family because your family also has extended networks. And we have a lot of WhatsApp groups right now. Like you have small WhatsApp groups, big WhatsApp groups, and all of them are with family. So you can post your work there, share your work there, ask them to share it forward. So family is also great for networking. You can also volunteer. Volunteering really adds an edge to your profile is what I've noticed, because people tend to see what causes you volunteer for, and the whole social sector aspect is very big right now, and volunteering really helps. Another great thing about volunteering is, especially if you're volunteering with NGOs, they have contacts with other corporates, they have contacts with other big donors. You can make a lot of connections if you volunteer. Social media is also not just for sharing photos and selfies. Social media is also a place for making new connections. because you can connect with anybody. You can, for us, we see artwork. We see the artwork, we like it, then we speak with the artist and then collaborate with the artist. So that's how people in the art and design field use social media. So that's one way. And the last is keep your systems tight. So always talk and connect with your friends, your faculty, and your parents. They all can give you really good advice about networking in particular because they have a lot more experience than you. So always talk, ask for feedback, keep pestering them, asking them lots of questions. That's a great way to build new connections. I've also actually, I'm talking to you right now because of networking, because I've already worked with Internity. That's why they gave me the opportunity to speak with you today. So that's also a part of networking. The last is to present yourself professionally. So there is a particular way of writing emails when you're in a professional setting, and you should have command over your language. So all of that is really important, and even more important, especially for a freelancer, because the only thing that you're selling is your name brand. There is no big office or anything behind you. So you have to always present yourself in the most professional manner possible. So be professional in your emails. Don't be casual when you're talking to a client. I mean, some clients do prefer it if you're casual, but you should be, especially when you're giving them work or getting work from them, in those emails in particular, you should always be professional. Ask for every detail. Always be polite. Those are some important things you should think about when you're writing emails. When you set deadlines, you have to always give yourself a day or two for revisions and technical errors. You might think, okay, I have taken on a job and I can finish it in 2 days. You should always give yourself 3 days to 3.5 days so that if any error comes up, you can correct that. And clients will always have revisions. No matter what the field, I know clients always have revisions. So you have to keep space for that, because they won't keep space. That'll fall on you. They'll be like, you said you'd give it to me 2 days ago, but even if they give the revision, so you have to make space for that. Another thing is, just because you freelance does not mean you are available 24/7. What I mean by this is have your working hours set. Because if you don't have your working hours set, clients will call you at any time, any day. And you might not want to, and you shouldn't take those calls. But because you're a freelancer and this is your only source, that's why you should always make that clear that I work only 9 to 5 or I work only 10 to 6. Whatever your timings are, make it very clear to the client at the beginning. Of course, you can take calls later, like if there's an emergency or something, but try as much as possible to follow it this way. Also, you are your own boss, so hold yourself accountable. We freelancers don't have somebody above us who, when push comes to shove, can take the responsibility and say, no, my team did badly. You will be the one who's going to be held accountable. So you have to make sure your deadlines are set, you have a timetable to follow, make sure all of that is done. Yeah, that's all I have to share. So thank you for listening. And if you all have any questions, I can take them now. Right. How can we get work on freelancing? What is the process? Uh, as I said, the first thing is to network. So, do you have a LinkedIn profile? Have you checked for jobs over there? There is also Facebook groups. I know Facebook groups have a lot of opportunity as well. There are sites also like freelancer.com where I know there's a lot of scope for design. Yeah, beginners can also do freelancing. You can take smaller kind of projects. Like I know people who do transcribing for freelance. So they take text that is, say, in Bengali and transcribe it to English. So you need to understand, then you need to understand Bengali well. But yeah, so even if you're a beginner, you can definitely do freelancing. Any more questions? Advantages of being a freelancer. Since I work full time and freelance, so a couple of the advantages I see are that I get to take on more passion projects. I can take projects that I feel like doing, that I want to do, that may not necessarily be good money but are worth it. Also, one of the other advantages of freelance is you can work on multiple projects with multiple clients. So you can take one project. For me, I would take one project that is illustration, one project that's graphic design. So that makes it very convenient. Is it a good idea to do freelancing as a second source of income if I already have a job? Yeah, definitely. I always believe that you should have multiple sources of income. If one doesn't work out, you have a fallback option. So yeah. As a beginner, how do we decide what amount we should charge for one project? Like if we are freelancing for a web developer. Avnish, do you want to answer this question? From my end, I can talk about for in general, you should charge for your education, your experience, your software, and other tools like internet. Calculate all of that. Also calculate how much time you would take for a project. That will give you a good idea of how much you want to charge. Right. Right. Yeah, it's also like really good, no matter what field you're in, to speak to people who are in your field, even if they're working full time, because they have a very clear idea of industry standards in income, in salary, as well as trends of the way the process is. So it's always good to talk to people in your field. How should we update our CV as a freelancer? Names always count in my experience. Like, I volunteered with Internity Foundation. I volunteered with Mental Health Foundation India. So those look good on the CV. Also, skills. The more skills you have, the better it looks on your CV. Even if I'm a graphic designer, I would also add content writing or illustration. Those are also the skills that add value to my CV. So it's good to have that. I think languages also help to a certain extent in my field. Having, especially if since we're working in the Indian context, the more languages you know, the better. What are the major challenges one faces during freelancing? Biggest is when I used to work without a contract, I had a lot of issues with client payments. So I used to get payments very late. Then I started making contracts. So then I used to hold them accountable. Like, I used to take 50% advance and then 50% after the job is done. So that way, even if they don't pay me in full or they delay paying me in full, I at least have that 50%. Because as a full-time freelancer now, I have a lot of expenses. So I should make sure that I get payments on time. Another challenge is I used to get calls at all hours on all days saying, we need the small change, can you make it really quickly? So those are some challenges. That's why you have to set all those boundaries beforehand. Who holds intellectual property rights for the product? Like, can I showcase previous work I've done in my portfolio website? Yes, so this is an important question. And for every field it differs, but ideally when you've done the work, you should be able to present it in your portfolio. So you make all those requirements clear in the contract itself, as well as, so in my industry, there's a lot of copyright claims and stuff. So we make sure that when we give a client even iterations, we have our copyright on that. So the client can only own the final product instead of all the versions of the product. So all of that you have to make clear in your contract itself. But yeah, you can definitely showcase whatever work you've done. You should have the right to showcase it on any platform. In the beginning, how much can we earn as per your experience? Again, this differs from industry to industry. So when I started doing logo design, I could make around 2,000 rupees on a logo. Now that's obviously increased because I have more experience. But again, industry to industry differs. Plus, one big disadvantage about freelancing is your income is always fluctuating. So some days might be a good month where you get a lot of work. And like this pandemic time, it was a really bad time for all freelancers. So there was no work, or if there was work, there was no payment. So that's a struggle. But again, if you're asking how much you can earn, it's best to ask people in your industry that what is and you can also check market rates. As a starter, if we make account on website like freelancer.com or Fiverr or any other, how do we attract clients, as most of the websites require some kind of rating? A good way is to get your friends and family to comment, talk, tag, recommend your profile, all of that. And this is a great thing. That's why you network, so that you know your other friends are also on Fiverr. You can get them to recommend your profile. Yeah, this is basically a struggle for any freelancer starting out, because anybody who sees your profile says that I want somebody with experience. So if you don't have experience, you can compensate by the certificates, recommendations, endorsement of your skills. I haven't been that much on any other freelancing.com because I get most of my work through LinkedIn and Facebook groups, as well as all the other networks that I've made. So, but generally it's good to have ratings and just recommendations and endorsements. One other thing that you can have is an online portfolio or online website where even if you're not a designer or an illustrator, it's a good way to showcase whatever you're doing. So even if you're a student, if you start building it right now with college projects, all of that also adds value, definitely. Do beginner freelancers do also have to pay taxes for the income they earn, just like other taxpayers? Yeah, definitely. But there is, of course, tax bracket. So you have to check whether you fall in to that if you have to pay taxes. But no matter how, that's why invoices are really important. Contracts are really important. It lets you track your income so that you don't get into any legal hassles that way. If you have invoices, then you have a clear visual representation of how much you're earning. I would like to explore graphic design in an illustration field. So where do I start? You want to do freelance in graphic designing and illustration?
I want to explore the field as to it's my interest or not.
Sorry, I didn't get.
Designing.
Could you just repeat that question?
My field of designing and illustration. So that there is the which for
Your voice is cracking. I can't catch the question. Can you just type it? Okay. In general, if you want to learn about designing, the best place to start, I think, is Udemy or Skillshare or any of those websites. They offer courses for a really reasonable price, and you can take some courses on the basics of design, theories of design, illustration. One great way is to get an Instagram profile started and start sharing your work. Same for LinkedIn also. You can get a LinkedIn account and start sharing your work. Another good way to go about designing is, and this is an exercise that even experienced designers practice, is they take, say you want to do graphic design. So you take a poster or a post by a big company and interpreted it in your own way. So you can't obviously post this as saying that I made this. You can say this is an interpretation of a post made by Parley or Nestle or whatever. So that is a good way to start practicing the principles of design. Another, yeah, Udemy courses, share your work, ask for feedback. A lot of things about design, even if you know the principles and all, is everybody views it differently. So you have to constantly ask people from a variety of background, what do you think about this? Am I doing this right? What is the first thing you see? Those are good questions to start thinking about design. Welcome. All right. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I hope it was useful to you all, and I hope you start working soon, and all the best.
Thank you, ma'am.